So independent on how we try to fake the sun's behavior on a flat earth and try to use perspective or whatever reason to explain a setting sun, in the end what is left is a sun moving 3000 miles above the flat plane, and the question remains, how can it get dark? And the average reason given then is when it's far enough away, there is so much air, humidity, pollution, clouds, whatever, that will block the sun's light. And the question then is, at what distance does the light no longer reach us? How much atmosphere do we need to have a nice dark night? Hey YouTubers, Flat Earth believers, globers and my subscribers, thank you for tuning in again, and I hope the next video is to your liking. Some people think that the flat earth was always there, but it's really not. You can find in far history maybe one Greek that at one point thought it might be flat, but there was also another who thought it could be a roll, while most already knew it was a ball in those days. So the flat earth basically originates by parallax, Samuel Rowbotham, who made the book Earth Not a Globe, then followed by Alex Gleason, who wrote Bible from Heaven Is the Earth a Globe, and he is also the guy of the Flat Earth map. And then you had guys like Carpenter, who also then lifted on a little bit of success there was with the Zetetic astronomy book of parallax. So he brought out his own book under the alias Common Sense. And you also had then Thomas Winship, who also thanks parallax for the idea, and he writes some so-called conclusive evidence, and if you then go through the whole book you will find nothing of that. But that's it. These guys had a model, and that model is basically still, if there is a good flat earth model, this one is the best one. And not like friends on YouTube today do. So like this one Dandy mentioned before, for instance, who puts his sun at 50 kilometers altitude, which is not correct. And in this model it is comes a little bit close to what the original Zetetic model is. So when I was in when I ask people why can't I see England from the Netherlands, or see Iceland from the north of Scotland, or see Africa from Spain, you get these arguments like, yeah, but there is, your eyes can't see all, and there is atmosphere in between, and humidity, and light cannot, your eyes cannot see that far. This was one of the reasons why I actually went, as you can see in my channel trailer, to Bonaire, the little island in the Caribbean. And the picture I just showed you was taken from Bonaire to the coast, which is like 100 kilometers. And if you pay attention, then you can see there the height of what I'm looking at. And when I start looking a little bit further, the height goes up to 500 meters, 900 meters, and I'm now 300 kilometers distance, 1400 meters. So I have a chain of mountains 1400 meter high at a distance of 330 kilometers. And you would think that something like that is visible. and more because people like to show images like this. Mark Sargent, one of the frauds, using a video of Jeranism, also a fraud, where they say, look here, 175 miles away, case closed. And they don't realize that that sun should be so high up that it cannot be behind a mountain that is only like 3 kilometers high and then a sun 3,000 miles high. That's not how perspective works. But the claim is, look, you can see the mountains. And I showed you already that I didn't see any mountains. Not from 100 miles, not from 300 kilometers, sorry. But here, 7-day truth seeker, in my opinion, then therefore also a liar, he claims he can see mountains at 400 kilometers. And we just saw that at 300 kilometers I didn't see them. And now a guy has popped up recently with all kinds of infrared images. And his claim is even wilder. He claims that 1200 miles far he can still see. And remember, when we look over the flat Earth, we look straight through the atmosphere. So apparently it is possible to look 1200 miles, 400 kilometers, 175 miles straight through the atmosphere, and we can still see things. So for the sun to disappear so that it can get dark, the distance needs to be substantially more than 1200 miles of atmosphere in between. And certainly more than 200 miles of atmosphere. So the next step in trying to explain what is going on is this one. We are going to assume we are in, let me change this, I can take that. Let us assume we are in New York and it is midnight. Where is the sun? Well, because the sun is south of you at 12 noon, then at night the sun is north of you, over the North Pole to, let's say, the equator. Let's take the equinox, that's easier. Now the distance from New York to that sun is approximately 15,000 kilometers. Fine. Phew. We were already afraid that we did not have enough atmosphere, did we? Because we had just seen that apparently all flat Earth believers, or half of them, now suddenly says, look, you can look 175 miles far away, up to 1200, 1200, 1200 miles away, over through the atmosphere, over a flat plane. And therefore the sun must have much more atmosphere. And you think, 15,000 kilometers, let's say 10,000 miles, that should be enough. And that is why it is dark. But guys, that's not the case. So what is this stupid thing I have here? I tried somehow to make this line to scale here. So somewhere here is New York, there is the North Pole, that little blue dot, and then here that little red dot is the sun. 50 kilometers or 30-mile sun at the 3,000 mile height. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to find the mountains at 400 kilometers apart, just to have an impression. And that's for that I need to go all the way into this corner where I did try to make it. Maybe you already see something happening here. Look, oh yes, there. Because But you have no idea how big even a flat Earth is, eh? Right. So, what we have here is like 3-4 pixels high, the 3,000-4,000 meter high mountain from which the 4,000 to 5,000 meter high mountain picture was taken. Yeah, so that was, let me see, this one. Yeah, and the distance here is 400 kilometers, 400 pixels. Now the next thing you need to know is that Earth's atmosphere, 50% of that is in between the first 10 kilometers, and the rest is then in the next 20 kilometers. So in here you have 99.9% of all Earth's atmosphere. And this extends, oh, here's a North Pole, etc. So, just to give you an idea what we talk about, this is the size of the one mountain, 400 kilometers far away, the other mountain, and you, according to what you say, we can see the mountain still. It's not even the 1200 miles, we are now talking 400 kilometers. So, now we're going to do something else. And that is try to find the blob, or this was the blob here. This is New York. So, it's 5,000 kilometers approximately from the North Pole. And then I can go this way. And now somewhere up there, I have my sun. Ah, there it is. So, the next thing I'm going to do is draw a line. And that line, I'm going to make it as thin as possible, but that we hopefully can still see it. It's black, duck. I'm going to put it here on the sun. Push shift and to New York. Now I have a line. Now I'm going to zoom in. So that is where the sun should be when you look from New York to the sun. Now you can play around with it, looks lower, but in the end the only thing that counts is how far does the sun go through the atmosphere. And for that we need to go and figure out. Hold on. So people was interrupted and had to restart a part. The line arriving at New York, it's a bit, below New York, but the few miles there or kilometers there don't really matter. So the first thing we're going to check is that how high did I now have made the atmosphere. For that I'll take this one and I'll go to, and I already checked it so that I can do it a bit more quick. 45 pixels. That is the diameter of this circle. That is therefore 45 kilometers high atmosphere. And we will see later that 45 kilometers atmosphere is 98% of the entire atmosphere. Now you can't say, oh, but that's for the globe. No, because what we have measured is what we have measured. If the Earth is flat, therefore what we measured is for the flat Earth. You can't wiggle about with that. Now, from the ground to that point, we want to know how much atmosphere does the sun rays need to cross to a viewer in New York at midnight. And for that, I already figured that out as well. It's about 250 pixels for the whole circle. And when I do that, I have a nice point here where it enters the atmosphere to this ground point. It's a half a circle. It's the center of the circle to there, which is 250 pixels. So half is 125 pixels is 125 kilometers. The sun rays need only have 125 kilometers when at night they cross the atmosphere. And we have seen just before that we can look through the atmosphere 400 kilometers far, 1200 miles far, and we can still see through. Yet the sun disappears apparently with 125 kilometers of atmosphere. It's not correct, guys. It's simply not correct. So here we have a picture that shows the air pressure in millibars, temperatures, etc. So at ground level it's 1000 millibar. At let me see, 10,000 kilometers it's only 246 less. So you have 25% of the rest of the atmosphere is above you and the rest is below you. And then when we near the, let's say, 45 kilometers, we have like 1.7% still. That means that everything above that is 1.7%. So it's a 98. That's a 98% is below 45 kilometers of air. And if the Earth is flat, then these measurements are from a flat Earth. Yeah. And our flat Earth believers, the people who try to make you believe that the Earth is flat, have tried to prove that using videos, pictures of views over the flat Earth through the entire horizon, atmosphere of 175 miles up to 1200 miles. Apparently it is suddenly possible to look that far through the atmosphere of a flat Earth. However, at night the sun only covers 125 kilometers, so that's less than 80 miles through the atmosphere. The rest is basically empty. It's a sort of vacuum, and that cannot block the sun. If 1200 miles visibility of just a view of the Earth, not even the bright light of a sun, is possible, then a bright light as the sun requires much more than 1200 miles of atmosphere in between you and the sun for you not to be able to see the sun. And we have now proven that the amount of atmosphere between you and the sun, if you're in New York at least, during the equinox, is only 125 kilometers. Flat Earth sucks. Sorry, it is hereby proven to be not feasible. Again, and I'm not talking about all the errors in perspective and etc. As we said, we forget that. We will only talk about the actual amount of atmosphere the sun rays need to travel through. And that's what we have done. And whether the sun looks low, like on the picture here, or not, doesn't matter. It is actually 3,000 miles high, 5,000 kilometers, and the amount of atmosphere is only 125 kilometers. That's it. Debunked. Forever. If you like this, please subscribe. I really would like that. If you have comments, stay on topic, or I just delete them. And don't put links to other videos here unless you describe exactly which point of that video at what timestamp you think is relevant to this discussion. For the moment, I sign off. Your Flat Earth debunker, M. Goudsmit, says goodbye. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.